Two very different situations working with a for sale by owner. When you're working with buyers, should you let them work with a for sale by owner? I have a success story and a buyer beware, so stay tuned. Hey y'all, I'm Rachel Hadizes with eXp Realty here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, bringing you another video about my real estate business, attraction-based marketing, and more. In today's video, I have the tale of two FSBOs. FSBO is an acronym that stands for sale by owner. One situation turned out great and the other situation left my buyers heartbroken. I'd love to hear from some of y'all. What have your experiences been working with a for sale by owner? Let me know down in the comments below. Success story. Last fall, I started working with this sweet California couple and they are looking for a very unique property. They needed something on about 5 acres with 3 different dwellings. No problem, right? Be it a site-built home, mobile home, or whatever. They just wanted to be able to bring both of their parents with them so that they could all live together in Tennessee. This is definitely not your average piece of property. It's actually very difficult to get financing on 2 properties kind of in one. That being said, one Thursday morning last November, I woke up to a text from my buyers. They had a link from Redfin of this property that had just come on the market. And as I'm reading about it, it says it's basically a for sale by owner, but they have an agent that's in the remarks that says to set up showings through Heidi. This property was perfect. It had 2 structures. The first structure had 2 different apartments in it. The second structure had an apartment/garage, and it even had a 3rd septic system that didn't have anything attached to it that they could have parked a mobile home on later on if they wanted to. So this piece of property is perfect. Oh, and I think it was about 12 acres. So I called Heidi and I said, are your sellers willing to pay a buyer's agent commission? And she said, well, sure, you just have to add that onto the price of the house. And I'm thinking, so no. So I talked with my buyers about it, and luckily they love me so much. They don't want to work with anyone else because they met me on YouTube and I'm their realtor. So they said, we really want to work with you, and they're willing to pay my commission separately at closing so that they could get this for sale by owner home. So I video toured the property with my buyers. We were the first ones to tour the property, and my buyers said, we don't want to let this go, even though the seller might eventually pay me a commission if they let it sit on the market for 2 weeks. They wanted to see if they could sell it for sale by owner. And so we went ahead and took the plunge and made a full price offer. My buyers bringing me a commission separately at closing. And I continued to work with Heidi, who I later found out was just like a daughter to the sellers. She had lived with them there before, and so she was just doing this out of the goodness of her heart. Sweetest soul ever. We're actually friends now. So this was like working with a for sale by owner, but not entirely. The general public doesn't realize this, but about 80% of a realtor's job is to counsel and to educate. It's not just opening the door for people. So these sellers got a really great deal out of Heidi just because they knew someone personally who could give them that counseling, give them that education that helps so much in ensuring that a transaction is smooth and that it makes it to the closing table. And like most transaction, this one did come with some speed bumps along the way. We had to get a survey because they had to survey off a portion of the land. The first surveyor, he got sick, he got the big C, and so we had to wait for another surveyor. Then the appraisal got delayed, then the closing got delayed. Luckily, the sellers were sweet enough to allow my buyers to come in with a temporary occupancy agreement. We rented the property from them for a couple of days until we could make it to the closing table. The seller even agreed to make some repairs. You see, the seller had built these properties himself. The first structure I said was very unique because it had 2 different apartments. He had literally just built on room after room. It was such a unique property, and I'm so over the moon for my buyers that we got this. My buyers were fantastic to work with on this. And even though they didn't get 100% of what they wanted, they got a lot of what they wanted, and they made friends with the sellers afterward. In fact, the seller's daughter still lives in the property next to them. So, the seller will come over to my buyer's house and have a beer. And end of the story, they got 2 really great houses out of it. And as I said, they could even park a 3rd dwelling on this property. They're even planning on converting the garage/apartment into a barn-dominium. So I cannot wait to see that. I'll probably make a YouTube video out of it just because barn-dominium is just so trendy. People think that they're everywhere, but you really have to custom build one if you want one. So again, great story. It ended with my buyers paying my commission. The sellers were really reasonable to work with, and they're in fact friends with my buyers now. So on to the heartbreak. More recently, I had some buyers that fell in love with this home that was listed by a flat fee brokerage. So it's basically this seller, unrepresented seller, paid a flat fee brokerage just to list their house on the MLS. And they were offering even a 2.5% buyer's commission, which the standard is 3%. But if it's my buyer's house, that's my buyer's house. And I'm willing to work with that, right? We saw this home on a Saturday virtually because my buyers were out of town. We put in an offer on it the very next day on Sunday. And even the lender, our lender is fabulous. And she called the seller, she called the seller and just let her know the strength of my buyer's financing. They're already in underwriting with the loan. They basically just needed to find the house. And we even offered above list price. We did have a very strong offer. Minutes later, after we submitted the offer that Sunday, the seller texts me she wants to negotiate to increase our appraisal gap. Meaning if the home doesn't appraise, my buyers will be bringing more cash to the closing table and, basically paying more than what the house is valued at. My buyers couldn't go as far as she pushed, so we walked away thinking that our offer had not been accepted. My buyers were heartbroken. She later told me that she even cried a little bit over it, but we moved on to this other property that would have fit all their needs, even though they didn't like it quite as much. We went ahead and just made plans to see the property that Monday. They decided to submit an offer. I had everything ready to go and was about to hit send on that offer. And meanwhile, that other seller from the house that we thought we lost on Sunday, she started texting me back about how she thinks the house is gonna appraise. She found some new comps. Comps in the area were listed at $180-ish a square foot. She had her home listed for $200 a square foot. So I was very unsure if the house was gonna appraise. It could have appraised for $50,000 less than our offer, for all we know. At any rate, I informed my buyers that, hey, this other seller from the offer that we didn't get yesterday, she's been texting me back and forth and says that she would agree to X terms because she thinks the house is gonna appraise for our offer price without us having to come with as large of an appraisal gap as she initially was pushing us to do. So my buyers are ecstatic. They're like, we loved that house. We still love that house better. So I submitted another offer with slightly larger appraisal gap, and the wife said that her daughter was sick and she had an ear infection and she'd look at it in the morning, even though she had pretty much verbally agreed to it over the text. And so the next morning I messaged her and said, can you sign? And she said she's waiting on her husband to get off of work. And there was just something in the back of my mind that said, I'll be a lot more comfortable with this whenever I have a signed offer in writing. And all day, my buyers thought that they had this accepted offer because the seller had verbally told me that she was going to accept our offer. Right around the time that our offer was set to expire, I texted the seller and said, hey, what's going on? Are you going to sign? I can't remember exactly what I texted, but she said, someone submitted a late offer and I'm so sorry, but I have to do what's best for my family. And I pushed to see what the other offer was, and it was $5,000 more than what we were offering. And knowing how chatty that seller was, she probably told these other people what to write down. These other people were conventional buyers. They're putting 20% down so that they don't have to pay private mortgage insurance. My clients are veterans. They don't have to put down a down payment. So in some people's minds, they think that a conventional loan is somehow a more credit-worthy buyer, and that just isn't true. In effect, this seller walked away from the opportunity to work with a fantastic veteran that served our country for the price of a hot tub. She walked away from that for $5,000. Is that really serving your family? You know, my client would die for your family to protect your freedoms, and you're gonna walk away for $5,000? Like, please. Unfortunately, even though I suspect that there is some blatant housing discrimination going on with people passing up veteran buyers because they think that somehow a VA loan is somehow a less credit-worthy buyer, you know, veterans are not a protected class. And the sad part is that this unrepresented seller thought that this unprofessional conduct was just fine, that buyers miss out on offers every day, but you know what? That's just not true. Buyers are not going around thinking that they had an accepted offer for 12 hours because another agent would not do that to another agent. We are held to a higher standard of professionalism, or like any standard at all. So yes, I learned a huge lesson out of all of this is that, you know, working with an unrepresented seller, they are not held to the same standard that I am as a realtor, and they can go around and say that, yeah, we'll accept your offer, and just not sign it. But another realtor wouldn't do that to someone. We really don't have any legal recourse with this seller. That's the unfortunate part. I think that karma will find its way in the end. Who knows, maybe this other buyer maybe their financing will fall through at the last minute. You never know, like things happen every day and deals fall through. You know, sellers like this, they likely even look down on the real estate profession. That's why they're trying to do it themselves. They think that they can take it all on. But you know, in real estate, there are no take backsies. Real estate laws and regulations exist for a reason. So my message to this unrepresented seller is that karma will find you eventually. So these are the tales of 2 stories of working with for sale by owners. I'd much prefer to work with another agent that's held to the same level of professionalism that I am, and working with a for sale by owner can have its drawbacks. Real estate agents, they help counsel and educate their clients. So if a seller is not getting that counseling and education, they're less likely to compromise or check their emotions at the door. As an agent, as a buyer, I think it's always best to leave it up to the professionals, someone that can be objective in the situation. Of course, you want it to be someone that you can trust, that has your best interest at heart. That is, unless you yourself have some sort of real estate background. Please give this video a like. It helps YouTube to promote my content to awesome folks just like you. Go ahead and subscribe with the bell and you'll be the first to notified when I post a new video, and I'll see y'all next time.